video, we'll be constructing the wall framing for our shed. A couple things before we get started on the wall framing. The first is we'll need to create a second layer or tag for our wall framing. So open your tag menu, select the plus sign, and then in the tag label, type in wall underscore framing. Press enter and make wall framing your current drawing layer. In order to utilize some of the commands efficiently, we'll want to hide our subfloor in a minute. And in doing so, we won't want to see any of the geometry from our subfloor. So go up to View, and you'll notice under View I have Hidden Geometry and Hidden Objects. I'm going to remove the check mark on both of those so that neither has a check mark to the left of it. To start, I'll start by drawing my bottom plate. Select your rectangle tool, pick the front left corner of your subfloor and the back right corner of your subfloor. Then carefully zoom in, click on your selection tool, and pick the subfloor on the left. Hold down the Shift key and pick the subfloor on the right. Right-click and select Hide. The two pieces of subfloor will disappear, but they are still in our drawing, just not visible at this time. Now we're going to come over into our toolbar and select the Offset command. After selecting Offset, move just inside the edge of our rectangle. When you see a red grip and the surface selected, click one time with the left mouse button and move to the inside of the rectangle. Type in 3.5 and hit Enter. Go back to the selection arrow and select the interior of the rectangle and then press Delete. We've now created a 3.5 inch wide band all the way around the perimeter. Go to your push-pull tool, pick on the surface, come upward and type in 1.5. Select the selection arrow, triple click on it, right click and make that a group. We've now created our bottom plate. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create my top plate. For this project, I want all of my walls to be 8 feet from the bottom of my floor system to the top of the top plate. So I'm going to put some guidelines in to show me where that point is. Let's go over to your tape measure tool, pick the intersection of your rim joist and your runner, and move upward and type in 96. And come right here to the corner, pick any place on the corner and then the end point of the corner, and throw a vertical guideline in straight up. Wherever these two guidelines meet, for instance right here, that's where I want the top of my top plate to be. So now I'll select my bottom plate, go to Move, I'll pick its top corner, press and release Control to copy, and I'll put that top corner at the intersection of those guidelines. So now I have my bottom plate and my top plate. I'm now ready to place studs, which are vertical members, in my walls. We'll start right here on this end, in my front right-hand corner. I'm going to go to my rectangle command. I'll pick this corner right here on my bottom plate, and I will go with a blue rectangle. I will enter 3.5, comma, 1.5. Enter. I will then push-pull that all the way up to the bottom of my top plate. I will click on that 3 times and make it a group. Our next step is to place these at intervals of 16 inches all the way down my wall. So I'll select the first one, go to Move, click on its corner, depress and release Control, and go on the green axis right down the edge. Type in 16 and enter. I will then type in 6x for 6 times. On this end, I'll select the last stud and I'll move it back to line up with the corner. I will do my stud spacing the same on the left-hand side. So I'll select my 7 studs by clicking the first one, holding down Shift, and clicking the remaining 6. I'll go to the front, and I will simply copy those by selecting Move, picking this point right here, hitting and releasing Control, and copying those to right there. Now my studs line up on both sides. I'll rotate around to the back, and the easiest way for me to do the back is going to be take a rectangle, pick this location right here, and then type in 1.5, comma, 3.5, and then pull that to the top. I will then have to make that a group by triple clicking it, right clicking on it, and say make group. Okay. Now, on the back, I'll need these also to be at 16 inches on center from my corner. So I will simply place a guideline coming off of the corner here on my red axis at 16. I will copy this stud from its midpoint right here, depress and release Control to right there. Then I can grab this one, press and release Control, type in 16, and we'll go 4 times. Lastly, I'll take my last stud right here, click on it with my Move command, press and release Control, and copy it to this location right here. I can then take these studs and copy them to the front. So I'll go to my selection arrow, I'll pick on the first stud, hold down Shift, and grab the remaining studs. I will pick that corner right there. So I'll go Move, pick that corner right there, press and release Control, and bring those all the way up to here. Now, I have to put 4 studs in at my corners. So I'm going to take this stud on each corner, this one right here, and I am going to copy it from this corner, Control, pick and release, to that corner. So basically, what it does is it gives me an inside corner so that my inside finish material can be secured on this face and on that face. And if I wanted to insulate my shed, my insulation could run all the way into the corner. I'll then repeat that process on all four corners. So I'll click on that. I'll go to move. I'll pick it out the right corner on this one. Press and release control and put the right corner right there. I'll go to the back and do the exact same thing. So in the back, I'll select this one. Press and release control to copy and place it there. And then I'll go down here. I'll select this one right here. Press and release control. And I'll place it right there. So basically now, all of my wall framing is complete. I'm ready to start to cut openings in that wall frame. If you want to, at this point, I can go up to Edit and say Unhide and say All, and it will replace my subfloor on my floor joist. So for our activity here, we are going to place a window in this location, and then we're going to place a door in this location. So I've got to create a couple rough openings that my door and my window will actually be located in. Let's start with our door on the front. I'm going to center my door. So I need to find the center of this wall. I can do that by selecting my tape measure tool, picking an edge, right or left, and then coming to the midpoint. Or I can just come over 4 feet. And you'll notice that this stud is pretty much centered on my building. If I'm going to put a 36-inch door in, I'm going to have about a 37.5-inch opening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick on my line right here, my guideline. I'm going to go 18 3/4 inches to the right, so 18.75 to the right. I'm going to go 18.75 to the left. That is my opening. I'm next going to grab this stud that's the closest to my guideline, and I'm going to copy it twice. I'm going to copy it from this corner, press and release control, to here, and then I'm going to copy it one more time, press and release control, to here. So I kind of have a double stud right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the left-hand side. I'm going to grab that, go to move, pick that corner, press and release control to here. Click it again, press and release control to here. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get its rough-in height. So right here where the bottom plate meets the subfloor, where the white surface hits the OSB surface, I'm going to go to my tape measure tool. I'm going to pick that edge and I'm going to come up and I'm going to type in 80.75. You'll notice that line is running right across there. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a header in that's going to travel from the middle of these two to the middle of these two. Okay. So right now, all of these are grouped. So if I want to make that header, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the middle of those two. I'm going to go down to the middle of these two. Okay. I'm going to go on the back side of this. I'm going to pull that in 1.5. Okay. Now, I'm going to measure this header. Now look at this, and right now it's 7.5 inches. That's probably going to work out fairly well, because what I can do in that header is I can typically just use a 2x8, which would be 7.25, with a piece of 1/2 inch plywood in the top of my opening, and that would make my opening about perfect. Let's come back before we do that, and for simplicity's sake, let's go ahead and pull our header, the back side of it, all the way out to here, and then make it a group. Because our header runs all the way from our bottom plate to our trimmer stud right here, all of the studs on the interior of my door, this stud, and this stud can all be deleted. I want to trim this stud and this stud even with my header. So let's go back and use our solid tools again. So select your header, go to tools, come down to solid tools and select trim. Pick this stud and then go over, pick your selection tool, pick your header, tools, solid tools, trim, and pick this stud. Now we have those trimmed off with our header, and we can delete our guides. The last thing I need to do for my door opening is I need to erase my bottom plate between my two trimmer studs right here. So I'll click on my bottom plate, get your selection tool, click on your bottom plate, right click and say edit the group. Now remember, if the rest of my model disappears, all I have to do is go up to View, Component Edit, and take the check mark off of Hide Rest of Model. Then I'm just going to come in here, I'm going to draw a line across this side of the opening and a line across this side of the opening. I'm going to go to my push-pull tool, grab the top, and push it all the way to the bottom. Now what you'll notice is there's still a couple lines on each side. Go to your selection tool, pick each of those lines, and press delete to completely get rid of the bottom plate in the door opening. After you've done that, right click and close that group. We can now put an opening in the back for a window. And for my window, I'm just going to use the distance between these two studs right here for my window width. So I'm going to put a window in that's 2 feet 6.5 in width. So I'm going to put a couple guidelines in here. The first guideline I'm going to do is going to be 80.75 from the floor. So from this point right here, I'm going to come up 80.75 and press enter. We're then going to go up to that line. I'm going to pick on it and I'm going to come down 36. I'm going to use these two guidelines to create my window opening. So we'll start by creating my sill at the bottom. I'm going to copy this stud right here. That's my center stud. This is my stud just to the left. I'm going to copy that stud from this location, press and release control, to this location. I'm going to copy this stud from this location, press and release control, to this location. Now, right here is going to be my sill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a 2x4 that runs across here. So I'm going to go to my rectangle command. I'm going to pick right there, and I'm going to go right over here to this edge of the stud, just like this. Okay? And I'm going to type in 1.5, comma, 3.5. I'm then going to pull that from there all the way to there. And then, in order to get it to come all the way to here, if I carefully pick it right here, it will grab that back edge and pull it out to there. I then need to make that a group. Now let's go to the top and do the same thing we did on the front. I'm going to come to the intersection right in the middle of those two studs, start my rectangle right there, and go to the intersection over here. I'm then going to pull that rectangle all the way through to this side of my studs and make that a group. Okay. With this selected, I'm going to go up here to Tools, Solid Tools, Trim, and select the left-hand stud. I'm then going to go back to Tools, Solid Tools, Trim, select the right-hand stud. And you can watch it right here, trim that stud off. I'm then going to go over here to my selection arrow, pick on it, and then pick my sill. I'll go to Tools, Solid Tools, Trim, the stud, Tools, Solid Tools, Trim, the stud. Then I'll go Tools, Solid Tools, Trim, the stud. Now, this stud right here, I'm going to get rid of everything from the sill up. So if I click on that and I say edit that group, triple click the top and hit delete. And it will get rid of everything above the sill plate. The last step is going to be to delete our guides and then copy our plate one more time to create a double top plate. So take this, your top plate, and say move, pick the bottom corner, hit Control, and stack it exactly on top of itself. We have just completed the second step, the wall framing.